remember when I was 14 working in a hobby store scene, my dad wanted to start his own shop. Yu-Gi-Oh! Was a popular thing there. Hello again, and welcome. I am Pan the Panda from Panban Gaming, and today we'll be reviewing Half-Life 2, a game developed by Valve, released by Sierra in 2004. This game is a real treat to play, and I have this game on Steam, and currently it costs around $10. Roughly 20 years after the events of the original Half-Life, the events of this game take place. Gordon Freeman basically had to save the world from an alien invasion when two dimensions crossed at an incident known as the Resonance Cascade. This event was caused when an experiment within the Black Mesa facility went horribly wrong, opening an interdimensional rift between two dimensions. This allowed the Vortigons, along with several other alien species, to come out and attack the facility of Black Mesa. As the inside of the Black Mesa facility descends into chaos, the military is sent out to deal with the situation. Unfortunately, their only mission is to cover up and stop the impending crisis. Now pursued relentlessly by the military, Gordon Freeman must continue moving on in order to stop the Resonance Cascade and close the dimensional rift. He finds the rift being held open by a huge entity, and when it's destroyed, the dimensional rift closes, therefore stopping the Resonance Cascade. After this, the mysterious figure known as the G-Man places him into stasis for 20 years. And here we are, 20 years later. Basically, what happened is that the events in Black Mesa caught the attention of the Combine, who decided to come to Earth and enslave mankind. Coming through with advanced technology, the humans were unable to stop the Combine. Therefore, Dr. Breen, the head of Black Mesa at the time, negotiates a surrender. Following these events, the Combine installs the genetic suppression field, which keeps humanity from reproducing. What human survivors are left are placed under the control of the Overwatch, a paramilitary force which is responsible for controlling the survivors and helping to ensure that humanity matures. With those events unfortunately burned into human history by the Combine, Gordon Freeman is once again called upon to save the world from alien invasion. He is pulled out of stasis by a mysterious figure that is still only known as the G-Man. He is inserted into a railcar headed for City 17, and that is where the events of the lore end and the game begins. Storytelling and cinematics are still told the same way as the original. The environment prefers to immerse the player by having the player character actually be speechless, not saying a word. Having the main character remain entirely mute allows the player to fully experience the game, imagining what their character might say or do in these kinds of situations. This approach to storytelling allows the player to take in as little or as much of the story as possible as it surrounds them. This move on Valve's part allows the player to actually pace themselves through the game, allowing for them to experience a lot of story in a short amount of time. Overall, I'm going to give the storytelling a B rank. Graphically, this game is much more beautiful than the original. The textures seem well done and well designed. The graphics in this game actually pretty much blow away the original by 500 times. While the game itself is actually pretty breathtaking to behold, I have to admit that some of the textures aren't exactly spot on since engines for buggies are pretty bare bones. Animation is still done extremely well, with weapons actually having visible recoil and actuating parts that make the weapon look as if it could actually exist. Reloads offer an interesting take on some of the weapons, and character as well as facial animations add to storytelling. Effects are done pretty well, with bullet traces looking semi-realistic by not being visible all of the time. Ragdoll physics make for some comedic value when launched high into the air via explosions. Overall, it's pretty enjoyable. Dynamic lighting is handled extremely well, with daylight actually casting realistic shadows and player models also casting shadows as well. Overall, Valve did a solid job with the graphics, earning them a B rank. Music, while not present in the game all of the time, the soundtrack still captures all of the nuances where the original Half-Life managed to do all right in. Sounds in this game are pretty clear, and each weapon sounds pretty good, even though the pulse rifle could use a few tweaks in order to give it that sci-fi impact which it lacks. During the course of the game, sound seems to come at you from all the directions, and it helps to tell the narrative or sell the feel of the environment, which puts you directly in the game. The properties of each sound played also seem to match the environment much more closely this time around, giving a much more realistic feel. Due to the decisions of Valve and their sound design being pretty spot on, I'm going to have to give this category another B rank. Of course, the meat of every game is gameplay. Keeping with that, I'm going to talk about the NPC AI, which can be a bit finicky, some of the people getting themselves stuck in positions in certain situations where you can just shoot at them until they die. Consider this though, the ally AI in this game is not entirely useless. It actually takes cover under fire, which is actually a good thing. The AI for all of the human units will also engage in squad-based combat, which is pretty interesting to watch when you back away for a minute. Moving on to the controls, they seem to retain that legendary level of rock-solid responsiveness that is trademarked to the series. And as far as I know, the game supports several different controllers as well. With level design, they did a fantastic job. Levels are epic, wonderful to explore, and sometimes contain hidden goodies, allowing for you to hide from enemies and use elements of the stage to cause maximum damage to those enemies, and to your effectiveness as well. While this game is a single-player sight to behold, unfortunately, it only comes with a lot of achievements, but there's no upgrades or customization. On the subject of mods, there are actually a handful out there, including one that will allow you to return to Black Mesa and play the original story. However, this has actually gotten such critical acclaim that it's been given the standalone treatment and will soon be available on Steam as a full release in and of itself. Because of the cutting edge of AI at the time, and the design decisions that were integrated into the levels, along with the rock-solid controllability of everything that is integrated into the game, I will give gameplay a solid A rank. Overall, the graphics look great, the audio sounds awesome, and I'll have to take away a high replay value as I've also played this game several times myself. I will say that in the end, the game earns every bit of its B ranking. I highly recommend it if you haven't played it yet, and be sure to check it out. And that has been my review of Half-Life 2. Be sure to set your sights on that like button and fire a missile or two. And if you love us or hate us, please leave a comment and subscribe. We'd also love it if you visited our webpage at SHADOWFOOT.net. Once again, this has been Pan the Panda from Pan Gaming, and we will see you on the next one.